What is up,
Hello.
everybody? Obviously, post game here, Philadelphia Union won, New York Red Bulls won. It's a big game, a big result, obviously, for the Union. As I said to Mike earlier, when they went down to 10 men, this was a bigger mental test for them in comparison to that Atlanta game. They didn't crumble. I think they were probably the better team with 10 men, and they managed to get the goal. Guys, your opinions? Obviously, Eric's on the show, who's been a loyal viewer so far. Thank you for coming on tonight, Eric.
Yep, no problem.
So I was going to say, what are your opinions on the game, you two? What do you think? How do you think the Union played? Did they deserve a draw?
Eric, go ahead. You take the lead here as someone who I know has a lot to say about tonight's match.
Like I said, that game's that was all over the place. And there was times where in that game where I wanted to walk away, just not even just go to bed because I knew I was going to be angry. And then there was other times where I was like, did that really just happen? Yeah. You start with you can start anywhere, but in that game, and you'll have a different opinion. First half versus early second half versus middle second half, and then even the closeout. Like every single part of that was just a high low in between. It was a roller coaster. It very much was, as you said before. So.
Yeah, you expect it with Red Bulls, right? You expect it to be a dramatic match, but you don't quite expect all that to happen. And they said on the commentators, it was back and forth the entire time. Like they didn't really have a break. It was just high pace, high intensity for the entire match. Dave, how about you? What are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I think if you watched the last couple of games, it just didn't seem like anything was going to go right for the Union. Every time the ball got inside the area, I think there was that one moment when the ball sort of was up around Casper and he was around the air, and you think it sort of bounced away from you. Think another game that bounces right into his path and he's going to hit that towards the goal, and it just bounces away. And sort of that seemed like the luck of the Union over these last two games, and then New York go down the other end. Freeze instead of clearing it, or instead of Glasnow's trying to play it back, get sent off, and you think, okay, it's going to be one of those nights again. Are we now going to have to sit here on this podcast and go, do they need to change up the formation? Do they need to change the tactics? But now we're probably going to look with more rose-tinted glasses and be probably happier with the performance and result than we would have been had it ended 1-0.
Well, that's the thing. So you enter tonight, Eric. If I had told you the Union will get a point on the road, would you have been happy with that outcome?
Considering the way they've gone, no, not at all.
No. Usually, for the most part, you'd be happy with a road point, but the way they lost against Nashville, the way they've kind of been shaky, you're like, come on, just get a win. Please get a win to get back home with 3 points. But it's one of those games where you're, at least, it's like Chicago. You weren't happy with 1 point at all, but you're like, okay, at least we got something out of nothing there. But just, I guess, to start on the first half alone, Dave, your thoughts right away off the first 45 minutes.
But they did concede inside the first 5 minutes, so there's already big tick. But I think it was obviously it wasn't a pretty performance, but I think both teams were well matched. They managed to sort of neutralise the threats that New York had. So I was quite happy with the first half. I thought they may not have created much, but they didn't allow New York to create much either. It was quite a stalemate in the middle of the park. I would have taken it, and I was quite happy with that first half performance if you had told me it'd be 0-0 at half time.
Yeah, exactly. Eric, any particular thoughts about what you saw from the first half that you liked or didn't like?
In general, I was just, kind of like he said, with not giving up an early goal. That's always huge. You can go back to even the playoff game 2 years ago. The first 5 minutes, I wasn't even in the stadium, and they'd already given up one. With the Red Bulls, you almost either expect the first half to be wild and crazy, or kind of back and forth with no result, but something's coming. It's either or, it's nothing in between, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I was concerned right off the bat with Martinez. I thought he looked poor again. Dave, I was going off to you on the Twitter Messenger. He didn't look good against Nashville. Then he comes in here. he had the one play towards closer to the benches where Bedoya is kind of running towards the sideline, and he should have crossed it, and instead he just feeds it to no one really, and it leads to a counterattack. I thought Martinez started out pretty shaky, but then he did have some great moments to end the half. He defensively he was much stronger at times. So I don't know. How do you guys think of Martinez from the whole game now that's done with?
I mean, no yellows right off the bat. That's already a plus from him.
That's a win.
No, I think, as you said, he grew into the game, didn't he? I think as he got more comfortable with the ball at his feet, I think he looked a much better player as he did in the first 15, 20 minutes where he kept giving the ball away. And then that ridiculous shot he had from like 30 yards after the Union did so well to get the ball up the pitch and put New York under some pressure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, we definitely needed that tonight. And speaking of pressure, Flock also had a lot of pressure there at times. Yeah. I mean, I've been a huge Flock fan so far. I thought he's a lot faster than he looks. He looks kind of stiff, and then he kind of turns the jets on and just can either close out a man or can make a run down the sideline. But I thought he played well overall. I kind of do want to see him more on the 6 rather than the left side of the diamond, but I thought he did well overall.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, what are your thoughts on Flock from today and so far this past couple games?
I mean, especially in this game, I was probably more impressed than I've been lately with him. Not that I really thought he was terrible in previous games, but I mean, he stood out surprisingly to me in the first half more than most of the other players did. So I would say, he had a pretty solid game overall.
Yeah, I think it's we're fortunate now with all these people missing that he's not going to be he's sticking around, because now you're missing Miro, you're missing Freese. Flock becomes that much more important. Yeah. But Dave, I know you were doing tonight's match recap, so take it ahead. Anything from the recap that you wrote up that kind of should be alarming for the Union fans or something to take note of?
I don't think there was anything really alarming tonight. I think apart from the penalty, I don't think the Red Bulls actually had a shot on target, or apart from the Klamala chance in the first half. I think those are the only 2 chances they had. They didn't actually have. This is probably the best game they've had defending set pieces in a long time.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They were awesome tonight defensively. I thought, apart from the hiccup at the back for the red card and penalty, I thought they were brilliant tonight defensively.
So, I have a question defensively speaking. So, Glesnes now has 3 moments this past season where he's had poor touches of the keeper. He had the one Chester to Andre and scored a goal. I can't remember what game it was. He had a close one, I think it was against the Crew, that almost led to a goal. And now tonight, he's he gave up the goal, basically. He put Freese out to dry. Eric, do you continue to play him against DC, or do you put Finlay in?
I mean, well, especially now that you're going to have to go back, you don't even have Freeze now. I might switch him out. I mean, I don't know where his head was, especially with that, with passing it to Freeze in that situation. I mean, I know Andre Blake obviously would have cleared that and everything, but I mean, you got to know Andre Blake isn't here right now. So I mean, I have no clue where what he was thinking at that point. I know he's been pretty solid. I mean, obviously offensively, you can't forget I mean, he had a pretty hard shot, but nothing big in this game. But the Atlanta game was, I mean, obviously no one will forget that goal. But I don't know. I mean, I just he worries me, especially now that Andre Blake's gone.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And now you have Bendik in net, which is just frightening, to say the least. Well, okay, how many games did he play last season? Do you guys remember? Was it 2?
Definitely 1, because I know the Crew. I think that was it. I think they put Freese in the next game, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled by it. I mean, he didn't play badly tonight in the short time that he had. I thought he did what he had to do. You can't expect him to save a penalty kick, so I'm not really upset with him there. But we've seen Bendik already, and he hasn't looked as sharp as either Blake or Free. So this is a big loss, especially now without Miro. So, Dave, I mean, you and I have gone back and forth with this formation. What do you do next week?
The issue is they have to play a narrow sort of formation because they haven't got a player that can go out wide. And I keep saying this every single week. They haven't got a quick, pacey player that can play out wide that you can go, okay, we're going to get the ball, we're going to give it to this guy. This is going to be our attack's going to go through, and he's going to carry us up the pitch with his pace. I mean, like, you've got Bedora on the one side, who's 35, isn't that quick, and then you got Flack or whoever else plays on the other side, who again isn't the quickest player. They haven't got that pace unless they played Santos out wide. But quickly going back to the Glasnow's point, regarding Findlay, obviously he played really well against Chicago. When I think me and Mike were both quite decent against Nashville. I think the only thing that perhaps keeps Glasnow in the team, obviously keeps making mistakes, is the fact that he's so brave in his defending. He always slides in. He always tries to block as much as he can. I think Curtin looks more towards that side of the game as opposed to, okay, he makes one poor pass every so often. I think that's probably Curtin's viewpoint. I don't know if you guys...
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but we saw it last year with McKenzie and then Elliott and Glessens rotating. Elliott and Glessens were both playing pretty solid individually, but you did have to change them either based off the team you're playing, based off rest. I think this might be a game that you bench Glessens or maybe put a sub. I don't think actually no, you're probably not going to sub him out. If he's starting, he's gonna play the 90 minutes. But I want to see more of Findlay. I don't think Glessens can keep making these mistakes and keep expecting to start because this is going to cost us a game. It did almost cost us a game today, and it cost us. I can't remember the ball that he chested against. Was it New England Revolution?
New York City.
It was
New York City. NYCFC, yeah.
He's cost us points now in 2 games. I mean, you just can't do that anymore.
No.
Has he been benched yet so far this season?
No, I don't think so. No.
Elliott was benched for Stewart, right?
No, he wasn't. Elliott played in the defensive midfield.
Oh, that's right. He played the 6, which was not a fun experiment.
That was an ugly game. Less said the better.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't want to talk too much about DC. We want to recap the Red Bull. So, second half, Eric, what are your thoughts on the second half before all the chaos started happening?
Well, I mean, early on, before the chaos, I mean, it seemed like it just like more of a build up of the first half. I mean, a little bit slower, obviously, coming out of the gate after halftime and all. I honestly believed it was just a matter of time before the Union scored at that point. It seemed like the Red Bulls really weren't offering anything offensively that was going to make them worry, and then everything happened. So I mean, it was fine up until that point, but then like we've already said, the roller coaster then hit, and everything changed. So,
have you, Dave? What are your thoughts on that on the second half before the Freeze incident?
I think I agree with Eric. I think the Union looked much more bright at the start of the second half. They had a lot of positive possession in areas high up the pitch, and obviously Montero had that big chance that obviously actually again I want to quickly divert back to the first half quickly. Was it a handball with the Montero shot?
Oh, Eric, I'll let you take this one first because I was upset.
I don't even know. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest.
It looked like it hit him like right in this section right here. The replay wasn't close enough. It didn't really give you a good shot on whether he had hit his hand or not. I was more upset about the no red call against Miro.
Oh, that was
I don't understand it. I mean, okay, Dave, you're an international guy in the Premier League, in any league across the world. Is that a red card or is that a yellow?
Probably a yellow at most.
Okay. Why? Because over here, this should be a red for us.
I think just sort of, it wasn't like obviously the ball, he went in as the ball got played. It's not like he went in with a reckless intent. He sort of essentially bodied him. Sort of like if the player was going through on a counter attack, you just sort of shove your weight into them. And obviously, Miro's is a smaller player in comparison to Drew Yearwood, who did actually played a fair amount of years in England. I think it was a yellow card at most. It wasn't. Don't think it'd be a red card over here.
If it was Jose Martinez, it would have been a red card. Let's just call it what it is. It would have been a red card.
Listen, Martinez would have probably swung an elbow as well.
That's very true. No, I'm surprised that Miro got up. Sergio Santos has just got to the podium now. I'm surprised that Miro got up. I thought he was going to have a concussion. I hope that he doesn't have it. I mean, we saw Fontana go down in Atlanta. Yeah. And then he comes out of there with a concussion, but he continued to play that game. So we're hoping that at least his head is clear. I thought Miro played really great tonight. I thought he was excellent. He was good on the ball. He had some strong shots on net, and it's gonna suck missing him a big time. But how about Gazdag? Dave, you've been a big Gazdag fan so far. What do you think from tonight?
Much better than he was on Saturday. I mean, he was pretty much a ghost against Nashville, wasn't he? I think he must have touched the ball about 10 times in the 60 minutes that he played. Much more energetic tonight. You think he was buzzing around up front, caused the New York defense a few issues. Didn't have a chance, didn't shoot, didn't have a chance, but it was that sort of energy, that intent to get on the ball and create stuff, which I think he lacked against Nashville.
Yeah, Eric, how about you? What are your thoughts from Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, this seems like the second or third game where I could say like he seems like he's all around the ball and everything. He obviously hasn't really produced like stat lines that you would think would come with that, but it does seem like a matter of time. And of course, he was unlucky considering what happened later on in the game and everything. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if the red card doesn't happen if he ends up with at least an assist, if not a shot on goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He had a very good chance when Flock had him running down the sideline early on in the first half, maybe like 20 minutes in, and Flock kind of feeds him into the box, and you could see he's making the right runs. He's had a couple good chances. And that was a great shot at goal. It's just unfortunate it was saved. But we talked about this last week, and Eric, you probably agree with me. He should not have been on the left-hand side of the diamond last game. He looked, and Dave mentioned as well, he looked very out of position. He looked like he wasn't part of the game at all in really any aspect. But now you have a chance to see him play the 10 next week, and I would probably bet that he plays in Miro's spot next week. Do you guys think that he kind of plays the top of the diamond next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, is that people want Jamiro on the left because it creates space for everybody else. But he keeps being put at the top of the box. And now with Corey Burke out, you kind of have to put Gazdag up as a striker or as a forward because you want to have Sergio coming off the bench. But I don't know if they put Daniel now at the 10 and have Santos start and have both forwards playing, but then who do you substitute for them? I mean, what do you think, Dave? What do you think, they keep Daniel up top?
I mean, Santos has to start next game after what he did tonight. I think it's time that Jim Curtin actually gives him a full 90 minutes or gives him 80 to 85 minutes, because, I mean, can a professional footballer be really that unfit that he can't play more than 60 minutes a game?
I mean, we've seen Connor Casey, strolling around out there before, and we've seen players, not exactly the most fit players out there. But no, I agree. I think the biggest concern is his health. I mean, Eric, how long has Santos been with us now? 3 years? 3 years at the most?
Yeah, 3.
Third, yeah.
How many times has he gone down? 5, 6 times? Yeah. I mean, his health.
South American.
He's a South American, yeah. It's his health, and he's just not a overall healthy player. He just always seems to get banged up. How about you, Eric? What do you think? Next week's formation, do you keep Santos on the bench, or do you just change the formation entirely?
I mean, considering now how many players you have out, I mean, I don't even know what you can't. I mean, you have to throw something out there. So I mean, especially the way he played late in that game, I
Yeah.
wouldn't see why you couldn't at least initially start with him,
Yeah.
and then see how the game goes. I mean, I don't know how you would replace him later on, especially with how light that bench is going to be now. But I mean, I wouldn't see why you wouldn't start him.
So you have Ilsinho maybe coming back.
I think
Next
El
week.
Senior, I think, will be in the squad. I think for the DC United game.
Do you think he would get subbed as a forward, or would he be on the right side strictly for Bedoya?
Maybe on the right side or at the 10.
The 10. See, that's not a bad spot either. He does have the skill level to be at a 10.
Yeah.
Eric, I mean, what do you think? Do you think Ilsinho plays a significant role next week?
I mean, I'm like I said, I mean, I'm hesitant to say so just because of, I mean, we had him for what, not even 10 minutes this season already, but at the same time, considering the options that he might have to, I mean, yeah,
yeah, no, I agree with stuff. What can Quinn Sullivan play up top, Dave? Do you know?
It wouldn't hurt. I don't think, and it couldn't hurt at this point. If you're experimenting, I think obviously Jim's made it abundantly clear that his main focus this year is the CONCACAF Champions League. So I mean, now's the time if you're going to experiment stuff. You might as well do it now when you've got players off on international duty and being realistic. I mean, you're in the playoff hunt, but I mean, with the form that you've got, I mean, well, I think solidly right in the middle of the playoff hunt at the moment. You could probably afford to risk to perhaps, try out one or two things.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, you saw last night, Toronto won and Chicago won against Orlando and New England. So if the Union had won tonight, they would have been in second place.
Yeah.
By a point. And now they're still in third place. Now they're still a point behind Orlando. So they kind of let a moment slip through their hands because everybody that had to lose for the Union lost. NYCFC lost as well. So it sucks that we now may go into next week's game thinking like, well, we just need to get a point out of this instead of trying to continuously climb up the table to get to that second position because it's right there for the taking. And DC United is not that far away either. So we don't want to let them creep up the table as well. But I guess we'll kind of figure that out. How about, is Cole Turner still on the roster? Is he a sub?
Yeah, I think. Did they wish him happy birthday yesterday on the Twitter account?
You're right. They did wish him happy birthday. Okay, so Eric, do you think now Cole Turner's a midfielder? Do you know if he's played so far in the last 2 years that it had any significance? I can't remember him ever being in the game.
Don't think he's played.
Nah, yeah, that I can't even. I couldn't even think for a minor like couple minutes him being on the field. So
you have a lot of midfielders. You have, you got Sullivan, you have Cole Turner, you got Paxton. I forgot about Paxton actually.
Yeah.
You have Paxton. You have Jack McGlynn. So you have 4 young midfielders that could make some sort of impact. But I don't know if I trust any of them to be a replacement forward. And you have Delfino. I don't think you trust any of them at the moment to come in for Santos or Casper. Yeah, it's tough. But in terms of going back to the Red Bulls game, from a lot of people have been giving Bedoya some slack recently. What did you guys think of Bedoya tonight?
I mean, I did, especially in the first half. I liked his work rate and everything. I mean, he was right in that on that opportunity late in the half with the near goal and everything. I mean, I didn't hate him. He kind of disappeared later in the game to me, at least to me. I just might not have been paying attention to him, but I mean, I thought he was okay considering the way the game was going at the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dave, what do you think of Bedoya?
I think I agree with Eric. I think obviously first half he was a lot more involved. Or second half, obviously when the red card came and sort of things had to change. I'm pretty sure he sort of tucked into the middle a bit more with Martinez. I think it became more of like, especially when Santos came on, it became a much more like tighter midfield three. So like three central midfielders, and then you just had the two strikers up front, which is a bit like just lump it long and see who can do what. But yeah, I think a large improvement.
I think the last couple of games he's been iffy. I agree with you, Eric. I thought to start the game, I thought that all the midfielders played very aggressively to start. I thought Flock was involved. Even Martinez was being kind of erratic, which, was frustrating. He was at least making a hustle impact. And then Bedoya was doing the same thing. They were all actively involved with the play, which is what you want to see from your midfielders. But I thought he did better. I think eventually you're going to have to come across that bridge where he's no longer an active part of the starting line. At least get subbed off in the 65th, 70th minute, because he is getting older, and you can see by the end of the game he's kind of wearing thin. So maybe Quinn Sullivan kind of takes that next step and becomes that consistent sub off the bench for us. But speaking of subs, Dave, Gazdag gets subbed out for the red card. Do you agree, or should you have taken out Casper?
I'm gonna say I agree. I think obviously Gazdag's a good player and everything, but even with 10 men, you still need that natural striker up front to hold the ball up and keep things going. I think had they have taken Casper off, the New York defenders could easily just look at it and go, we'll just sit one on him because he's never going to win headers, he's never going to win the long balls. Whereas Casper at least makes him think like, okay, we're going to have to sit back here. He's not the quickest, but he can bully defenders.
Eric, you and I are in the same Union fan page on Facebook, and a lot of people attack Casper on a regular basis. What do you think of Casper tonight? And do you agree with the sub for Gazdag, or instead of Gazdag?
Well, I mean, tonight, I mean, he was okay. He has definitely not lived up to his Champions League potential this season in the MLS. I thought he was okay tonight. And I mean, I agree. As much as it kind of makes sense that you would take him off there. I mean, I honestly, I don't think you really can, because I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, even with now that Corey Burke's gone, there's no other option up top then until you bring in Santos later in the game. So, I mean, I don't want to I'm especially considering how much superior I still believe this Union team is to the Red Bulls, despite the way this game went. I think that would have brought the offense to a grinding halt, and maybe you don't have that weird goal later on in the game. So, yeah, you definitely have to keep Casper on just to keep something going up until that point later on.
Yeah,
that's a fair point. It's one of those things where you can always count on Casper, because even the game against Chicago, technically he doesn't score a goal, but he puts the effort in to make that moment happen. And that was fresh off the bench too, so he comes in cold and makes something happen. But Casper has done enough this season, I think, to earn the right to stay in the game, because he can score whenever he really wants to if he gets a clean shot to do it. So at first I was like, well, Gazdag is playing better. But then as I started to think about it, it's like, yeah, you guys are right. Yes, he's taller. He's more physical with his size. And he is a consistent threat. You cannot let him be one-on-one. You have to make sure he's guarded well, because if he does get a clean look, he will put it in the back of the net. So I don't disagree with it. I was kind of iffy at first, but I think once the game ended, I was like, okay, I can see why Jim has so much trust in him consistently, because he never comes off really. He's rarely off the pitch when he gets subbed out. He usually plays all 90 minutes. But in terms of anyone else on the field, I mean, Eric, what do you think of Mabizo tonight? He had the big assist to get Santos the goal.
Well, I mean, obviously that's the highlight of the game there.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like, especially late in the game when that scrum was going on, him getting into it. Especially he had the card earlier in the game. I wasn't happy with that. I mean, we obviously, I mean, we already, well, that was even before Montero got his yellow, but I mean, you're already down without Freese. You know, you already don't have players. Don't put yourself in a situation where it's possible you might get another yellow, and then we're down another man. And then, of course, then we have the Montero thing on top of that. We could have been without 3 people coming out of this game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of mixed on him. I mean, yes, he helped us get the tie, but I mean, don't put yourself in that situation.
How about you, Eric? What do you think of his performance, or anything else that stood out? Or Dave? Sorry, did I say Eric? Sorry, Dave. Yeah, Dave. My
I mean, I thought Abizo for the most part, obviously, it was silly to get involved in the sort of the scuffle at the end. But I think for the most part, he played well tonight. Obviously, when you get a yellow card that early in the position that you play, and obviously the Red Bulls have got fast, skillful wingers like that wide, it's going to be a tough night because if you put 1 foot wrong, you're going to get sent off. I think he did well to contain the threat down the wing, and I think he obviously improved a lot from Saturday's game against Nashville. I think. Well, me and Mike was speaking about. I think that's probably the worst game we've seen that right hand side have all season. In comparison to the rest of the season, it's probably been, apart from the 2 centre backs, the most consistent thing the unit have had all year. But yeah, I thought he played really well tonight. I was really impressed with Isaac.
Yeah, I mean we've seen him grow as the season's gone on. So it was nice to see him finally put it together, get an excellent cross to Sergio, and put the assist on get the assist there. But he's going to have to be big next week. And speaking, you guys mentioned the scuffle at the end. So Jim Curtin said on Miro's thing, he says, when a melee breaks out, you could give 11 yellow cards, but when it's the one guy on the caution points, it hurts. Which he's right. The referee of all the people that could have gotten a yellow gives it to Miro, and now we're basically screwed for the next match. So it's, Michael Borton, right, Eric from Facebook, and he's pretty active on Twitter. He was pretty upset about the red card given to Freese. He thought the referee was too harsh on him. I thought the rule was that if you impede a player in the box, it's automatically a red. I did some research, and I've read now that it's not necessarily straight red, or it could be reviewed on a VAR. Do you guys agree with the red card? Do you guys think that maybe that was a little too harsh?
Yeah, I think it was a red card. I think obviously he had no intent to go play the ball, did he? It was obviously his only intent was to stop the guy. It was literally, you could see just the bear hug to drag him back. Yeah, obviously, I think there's a no double punishment rule now, isn't there? If you go to tackle, and you obviously are going to try and win the ball, and you end up taking the guy out in his last man, you don't get sent off now. But if you have no intent to play the ball, it's a red card still. And I think obviously it was a silly. I mean, it was obviously, that's what you've alluded to. It was a horrible fight. It was a horrible passage of play. But yeah, you can't do that. You can't somewhat wrap your arms around someone and sort of swing around you and get the ball in that scenario.
Javier, do you think it was a fair red card, or do you think maybe at least should have been reviewed?
No. I mean, I honestly, I wasn't even angry in my sitting there. I was like, I was more mad. Like I said, I mean, first I was mad at Freese because I had shades of Mboli from years ago.
Oh, no, don't say that name, please. Yeah.
I mean, and then of course, thinking about it, then I got more mad at Glesnes for even putting him in that situation. But yeah, I mean, the red card was the least of my worries. It was there, it was deserved, and it was unfortunate that it happened. But there were so many things that led up to it at that point that it was kind of on the back burner.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And Jim kind of highlighted it in the presser. He basically said, it's a young player. He's, we still believe in him. He's going to make those mistakes, and it is what it is. He actually also mentioned, and I'm reading all this off Brotherly Game since I couldn't listen to the press conference tonight. He mentioned that Santos was going to start against DC United anyway. But now that Miro's gone, things might change. So I think you guys are spot on. Santos is going to play a huge factor for us next week. Yeah. And maybe not just starting, maybe the change in formation. We'll see what happens there. But any other thoughts on the Red Bull game? I mean, there's a ton to talk about, but there's also just chaos for 90 minutes. I mean, anything else in particular, Eric, that kind of jumped out to you that you thought this should be highlighted?
I mean, kind of just what you said earlier. I mean, going into it, you're obviously not happy considering the way they've been playing lately to to get the draw, but considering everything that happened, I mean, you'll take it. I mean, that was such a battle of attrition. Like, I mean, we were lucky that we didn't lose anybody to injury, but I mean, we still lost people. It was both sides just seemed to lose something in that game, and I mean, getting the point is great. It's almost like all right, you got it, move on kind of mentality now.
Yeah. How about you, Dave? Anything that jumps out that you want to talk about before we wrap up the recap?
And obviously, I think, looking at the goal, I thought, I don't know if you saw the replays, that Santos' movement inside the box is incredible to constantly moving around in the box before the ball had even gone in. I think the whole passage of play deserves so much credit. Like, when an injured player goes down, so many teams will just stop and let it happen. For Bedoya to be so switched on and say, screw it, we'll get the ball in play while they're stopped. Great ball from Bizo to manage to get the air, or to get the height on it and get the distance on, and brilliant work from Santos to get in between the two centre halves and to be able to somehow direct his header against the post. That was a great, all round a great goal. And then the only other, I messaged you, don't know if you saw my aggressive message about Montero just before the final second. Because I don't know if you saw, Eric, when in the last second, when Santos had managed to somehow get past the defender and put the touch, and then Montero ran into the ball and was obviously offside and probably could have cost the Union all 3 points.
Yeah, I just at that point, like, I was like, the way this game's going, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm not even gonna. Yeah. I'm not even gonna be mad about it at this point.
I just couldn't believe it.
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's one of those games where you just. I know JP mentioned on the telecast, like, just don't lose now. Don't lose the game now. Just hunker down. Actually, I thought they played better at times when they had 10 men. They seemed like they were on the attack at a stronger pace. I don't know what it was. Maybe it woke them up a bit, but they actually played pretty well with 10 men. And again, on Brotherly game, they mentioned how they work on that kind of stuff. They feel comfortable with the man down, and that's what you want to see. You want to see a championship contending team play well when their back is against the wall, and that's what the Union are. Yeah. Whether we all agree or not, they are a playoff contending and should be a cup contending team by the time the regular season comes to a close. But I mean, we wanted to kind of do a short show tonight because it's just a recap, and it's also 11:30 at night. So we'll close it out here. Any other last thoughts, guys? Anything else you want to share before next week's game? No. I think we're good to go. All right, I will just read the sponsors real quick because we have to get paid, obviously. Manscaped is want to get the man in your life the perfect gift. We'll get a Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. Get 20% off free shipping with code AATBirds. Imagine surprise your man with a sleek, well-designed, optimized body hair trimmer that says your balls will thank you. 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com using code AATBirds. OddsJam is the #1 software program for sportsbook bandits. Their software shows you how to make risk-free cash off FanDuel and other sportsbooks like DraftKings with their arbitrage calculator. Never lose a bet again. Sign up today at oddsjam.com. Statement Games. Check out Statement Games. Very fun new way to fantasy sports and entertainment. Win gift cards and prizes. It's free. Sign up at statementgames.com. 99 jerseys, 20% off your next order by using discount code AATBirds. Check out their wide selection of kick-ass jerseys of your favorite sports and movie character apparel. Throwback jerseys of some of your favorite stars. Again, order it today at 99jersey.com, saving 20% off with discount code AATBirds. And finally, the All About the Birds shop. You get all our gear, all our network stuff from all the great shows that we have. And, of course, follow us on social media. Facebook, oh, look, there's one of the shirts right there. It's top-notch stuff. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, any platform you can think of to watch our shows. Or if you miss a show, Apple Podcasts is a great way to catch up. I do that at night. I'll check out our shows. And one last thing I do before bed is listen to our shows. But we wrap it up. Union pull out a very costly but very needed road point against the New York Red Bulls. Eric, I appreciate you coming on. I know we'll be talking every single week, and hopefully, actually, I'll see you next Saturday. Maybe we'll meet up and greet each other. Dave, we'll be in touch as always, and I want to thank our producer Mike Devlin, Mike Devlin 12. He makes everything go. Yeah. Mike, thanks for staying up late with us. And
Top
I
job,
think that's
Mike.
everything, guys. Yep. Appreciate you guys. Go Union.